threats to China, and talk of war. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because I want to have a look at this article, which is discussing, well, veiled or thinly veiled threats or swipes at China, and the ongoing just discussion and concern about warfare or war that's going on around the world. Yeah, it's starting to heat up a little bit, at least according to the media and what we're seeing. First, let's have a look, most importantly, at the current relationship, the China and Australia economic relationship, guys. So here we have, this is from the Observatory of Economic Complexity, comparing our two nations. So, China to Australia. Their exports from China to Australia, we're the 12th biggest destination for exports there, 52.7 billion. Top product is broadcasting equipment. China is our biggest export destination, ranked number 1, 111 billion. And our number 1 export to China is iron ore. Their economic complexity is 1.06, 29th in the world. We're at negative 0.16. We're 82nd in the world. And I refer to this more and more, just in general. The economic complexity, it's a sign of what we manufacture, what we export, how advanced our economy is. Sure, we have access to a whole lot of stuff, but it's all imported, everyone. Nothing's made here, or very little is made here. Because, well, it's cheaper to make it overseas and bring it in. But with shipping costs going the way they are, maybe we might see a renaissance in Australian manufacturing. So their GDP is 14.3 trillion. Ours is 1.4. They're literally 10x our GDP, everyone, okay? We'll have a look down here, and we can see just the exports from China to Australia. As I said, broadcasting equipment is the biggest. Then you've got computers. I mean, just everything I'm working on here. Exports from China to Australia, iron ore, coal, petroleum, gold. So there is an important relationship between Australia and China with regards to trade. No one can dispute that. So any potential conflict could certainly disrupt that. It will certainly disrupt, well, the Australian economy, and it would certainly have a big impact on China's economy. So I thought we would have a look and compare the two militaries of Australia and China, just for the sake of it, guys. Okay, let's have a look here. So here's the military power of Australia and China. And if we go here, we can see the population is 1.3 trillion versus 24 million. The land area, China is a little bit bigger than Australia. A little bit bigger, 9,500,000, we're 7,600,000 kilometers. And if we have a look here, we can see our GDP, and we can compare the two countries. As I said, they're 10x to us, or, well, sorry, that's the military budget. Their military budget is 228 billion, ours is 25 billion, so almost 10x our military budget. Manpower, so, well, there you go. They've got 2.3 million. We have 58,000 active personnel. Reserve, we've got 19,000. They've got 8 million in reserve. Available for the military, well, you know, it's not really much of a comparison, is it? We have a look here at the tanks. They've got 7,760 tanks. We've got 59. Armored vehicles, they've got 6,000. We've got 2,500. Total artillery, 9,726, we've got 235. Self-propelled artillery, they've got 1,700, we've got none. Rocket artillery, 1,700, we have none. And our tanks, well, there you go, guys. So, but, you know, we're an island, so you got to get them here first. We'll look at the Air Force. The comparison. This is compared to the biggest Air Force in the world. I mean, China's only got 34% of the Air Force of the US. The US military is very big. You know, it's very big. We're 4% of the US, but compared China to Australia, they've got 4,182 aircraft. We've got 450. Now, notice here, they've got over 1,100 fighters. We don't have fighters. We've got multi-role aircraft, and we're still waiting on this fangled new super aircraft to, you know, come along. Attack aircraft. We've got helicopters, 187. So navies, they've got 780 ships. We have 49 ships. They've got 2 aircraft carriers. We don't have aircraft carriers. Apparently we do. What do we have? Canberra class? It's not an aircraft carrier. It can't actually carry aircraft. Oh, well, there you go. You know, there you go. Let's, so we don't really have aircraft carriers. We have ships that probably could be adapted to aircraft carriers, but they just kept that bit on the ship because it's easier than taking it off. They've got 36 destroyers. We have none. They've got 54 frigates. We have 11. 42 corvettes. We've got none. They've got 76 submarines, and we have 6. And we'll look into the subs that we have. And here you can see the comparison, guys. So, well, China is a nuclear power. We're not. Okay? Military service, 18 to 24 years. We're 17 years voluntary. They've got compulsory military service with a 2-year obligation. So, that's just an overview of the two countries. I thought we'd have a look at some of the vehicles that we have. They've got the Type 99, which looks like it's their latest tank, produced in 2001. We're using the M1 Abrams. My understanding is it's about to be retired, and we're getting something else as our main battle tank. Made in 1980, guys. So this thing's 45 years old. It's still going, and they keep modifying it, but we'll see how long it keeps going. So the main armament is 125, and we've got 120, smoothbore gun, diesel engine, and with a Honeywell multi-fuel turbine engine. The speed of the T99 is 80 kilometers per hour. The M1 A2 is 67. Their weight is 52 to 54 tons. The M1 is 62, and the Cruise 3 versus 4. So you can see the caliber there and just the dimensions of it. So it's a bigger tank. Oh, it's longer. 11 meters versus 9. Bit shorter. There you go. And let's have a look now at the fighter jets that they have. And I picked the multi-role fighter to compare to what we have, the FA-18, which is getting old again. So you can see why the Australian military is trying to is at a point where they need to upgrade our defense capabilities. And we're just waiting on these projects to come on board. So they've got a fighter bomber from 92. They've got more advanced dedicated fighters, but this is a fighter bomber. 29 million unit cost in 2006. I mean, there we go. It can go Mach 1.75, Mach 1.8. Service ceiling 16,000 versus 15,000 meters. The weight empty is 14.2 versus 10. Crew 1 or 1 or 2. And here's the range. So the range is 3,700 kilometers versus 2,000 kilometers. So that's the difference between just their multi-role fighter bomber. But they also have, guys, they've got fighters, dedicated fighters. Now let's have a look at the submarines. Now I thought we'd compare it to the Type 39A compared to the Collins class. China has a significant number of other subs. They've got a lot of nuclear subs. But this is their diesel electric. And here we have the Collins. So it entered service in 96, where those was produced 96 versus produced in 2006. And we can see 3,600 tons versus 3,400. The range is unknown for the Chinese one. Ours is 21,000 kilometers surfaced. Big range subs. We need it because we're such a huge isolated country. Surface speed 20 knots versus 10. Submerged speed 20 knots versus 20. Depth 400 meters. 400 meters. Wow. Versus 180. A crew of 65 versus 42. So there's some of the difference between the two submarines, everyone. There's a photograph of it. And there is the good old Collins. Now, if you're interested in the Collins, because it gets a lot of bad rep, I would recommend that you watch this video that's just been put out by Subbrief on YouTube. You can find the link there, or just do a search for it. It's a really good video to give, just some insight to it, because the media just tears apart the Collins sub when it's actually pretty good, when they work the kinks out of it. The problem with these military projects is they're so advanced and so complicated, and it sounds like it was a typical Australian procurement process. Some of the insights he shares about how they deployed it with, just a painted timber to fake that they got the hull finished for government ceremonies. It's brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look now with that overview of the economic relationship and a little bit of fun looking at the two militaries of our two countries. I mean, the best defense Australia has is our isolation. It's the best defense. People are worried about I mean, there was a political scare campaign about China coming in and taking an airfield in the middle of nowhere in WA. You know, you send a few M1A2s there, or, you know, if you attack helicopters, you take it over, you know, when the planes have landed. Boom, you've got it. Anyway, let's have a look here. So Scott Morrison has delivered a thinly veiled swipe at China, warning economic coercion and cyber attacks are becoming the new tools of statecraft of authoritarian regimes. The Prime Minister on Thursday declared liberal values were under assault in a world increasingly threatened by authoritarianism, urging democracies to stick together in the Indo-Pacific. There is a great polarization that our world is at risk of moving towards, he said. A polarization between authoritarian regimes and autocracies and the liberal democracies that we love. Well, isn't that already happening inside our liberal democracy? You've got a whole generation that are calling for, you know, state intervention and authoritarian control of the economy and our lives because they've lost all faith in institutions. That's, you know, I mean, is Scomo really behind the 8 ball on this one? A liberal democracy and a liberal set of values that underpin the global world order that has delivered so much for the world. Mr. Morrison made the comments at the Reisner Dialogue, a multicultural meeting held annually in New Delhi, where he urged Australia and India to maintain a shared mission in the Indo-Pacific. The Prime Minister warned the region of great promise was increasingly becoming the focus of authoritarian regimes. We're not blind to the geopolitical realities. The Indo-Pacific is the epicenter of strategic competition, he said. Cyber attacks are becoming more sophisticated, including from state-sponsored actors and frequent. Economic coercion is employed as a tool of statecraft. Liberal rules and norms are under assault. The comments were an apparent reference to ongoing trade assaults launched by Beijing against Australia, seemingly prompted by Canberra's push for an independent probe into the origins of COVID-19. The ANU was also rocked by a cyber attack in 2018, which the federal government attributed to a state actor, widely believed to be Canberra. Earlier this month, Mr. Morrison joined a historic four-way meeting of the Quad, where he discussed the Indo-Pacific with US President Joe Biden, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. It was the first time talks between the Quad, a strategic alliance between the four countries, were attended by its members' leaders. That meeting was historic, a historic first and a mark of the momentum that continues to be built amongst like-minded countries in our region, Mr. Morrison said. 4 leaders of great liberal democracies in the Indo-Pacific, all leveraging our agency, working on a positive and inclusive agenda for the Indo-Pacific. It comes after Mr. Morrison's former colleague, Christopher Pyne, warned Australia faced a potential war with China in the Indo-Pacific within the next decade. The former defense minister said China's strategic posture was no longer benign. The reality is that China is confident and capable and is not embarrassed to show it, he said. 5 years ago, I would have said that the possibility of war was very unlikely. Now I would have to say that the possibility is more likely than it was then. Not a cyber war, but a real one involving loss of life, destruction of military platforms, with aggressors and defenders on different sides. This isn't rhetoric. This is something that you and I may well have to confront in the next 5 to 10 years. So I asked people if they're worried about war with China, and here are the poll results. 47% said yes, you're worried about it, out of 1,400 votes, and 53% said no, they're not worried. So I thought we'd have a look at some of the comments that we have here. So, US wants war with China. There's no other way to get out of its dire economy and debt. It wants a great reset so it can be top dog again minus the debt. Whether war happens or not depends on whether they can gather enough cannon fodder. Read Australia, Japan, India, or the D10. The latter will form a Russia military alliance. USA will not go to war with China alone, they will lose. So it's totally up to you lapdogs. If you say no to the US, there will be no war, but lapdogs will be lapdogs of Xinjiang. Well, there you go. Conventional warfare is too direct and expected. They're very clever and probably following one of their military heroes, Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is very good. I recommend everyone have a read. G. I'm from Canada, and I'm afraid to say a second Cold War is already happening. All Commonwealth countries must stand against the Chinese government's tyranny. Richard, not so worried, but Biden will create it soon. David Sanders, war, China has already won. They've infiltrated basically everything in Australia, America, and the UK. Dow, they have no money, 286% debt to GDP. Energy flux, the first Cold War was mostly propaganda, as this one seems to also be. Feudalism, governments need governments need enemies, or we don't need governments. The real war unfolding is the authorities against their own people. I think energy flux is at something there. You've got to watch for the propaganda that's coming out, everyone. No, because the Australian government has already been over. We've already taken it. Gary, the bankers own the West and China. Any future war will be concocted by them to achieve their long-term goals. The whole thing is a game. It's so shabby and sad. Don't buy into it. To be honest, China wouldn't pick Australia as a real enemy. It's not the same size. Yeah, we saw that in just a comparison of the militaries. Yes, but I fear the Australian government more. They're already waging war against us. Last time I checked, I was a tax slave. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, guys, here's something you got to realize. If you had a Chinese takeover, would your quality of life be better? Would you be paying less taxes? Would you have more freedoms? Would you have a more, let's say, based society? Because there's some Australians out there that would welcome that. I've met them. I was talking to them. Normal Aussies that are sick of all the politics and the rubbish. Going, oh, why don't we just have a system like them? So, Jason, if it's going to happen, it will happen. Unfortunately, it's the people who will bear the burden. It'll be better if it's just the politicians who declare war, go to war. Maybe war won't happen. Yes, that would be better. Because it's the normal people on both sides. Mozzie, we're being invaded already with the government's blessing. Robbie, we're considering the US is in debt to China, and all America has to do to tend to a debt based on their own currency is print more to pay it off. China will have more issue with that. Have a look here. North Korea alone would crush Australia in a war, let alone China. From Watchdog. Well, you got to have a navy to get to Australia. That's their biggest advantage we have. You know. Can anyone explain why they would invade, bomb this beautiful country when they own 75% of it? Why fight over who gets the taxes? Why fight over who gets the taxes? Yeah, that's it. The American left are actively making the US weaker. Look at their globalized corporations. The world is simply not free. Not Australia versus China, but China versus Japan. Not with Uncle Sam and the allies on our side. Yeah, we're effed without America. Happy to have their bases here. I'm not worried about it. It's already happening. Oh, it's coming. As soon as America falls to the insider commies, the CCP will smash us like they have always wanted to. Worried or not worried, war is coming, unfortunately. So there are a lot of people who are worried. You know, who are worried. So, I mean, here's the thing. What's the solutions to all of this, guys? I think in some ways it's really simple. Watch out for propaganda. You know, don't let the media drive you into a frenzy. You got to be chilled. You got to step back and have a look at the bigger picture. You got to do what you can to advocate against any escalating conflict, even the little bits that you can, just to keep people calm, because that's what they'll do. You know, it'll be all the propaganda and the rubbish that'll come out. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links you can find down below from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can help us with our share investing by signing up to Stake or SelfWealth. You can buy our merch from Teespring or from HeiseSays. You can see the pocket squares that Rachel's made. You can support us using Gold Pass or PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.